whether you believe it or not, everything is global. Everything. The products and services that we build and sell, our customers, our businesses, everything is global, and it's just going to continue to grow. Be ready, and if you're not, get ready.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host, Vanessa Rose, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and the video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest.
Kyle Ellicott is the co-founder of Tokyo Networks as well as Read Write Labs. He's also a noted TEDx and global keynote speaker, strategist, published author, and technologist with over 15 years of experience at the cornerstone of digital transformation between industry and technology.
Welcome, Kyle. We're thrilled to have you. So, Kyle, you've had 15 years of experience in digital transformation. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey and your learnings so far?
I don't know if we have enough time for all of the learnings and things to share, but sure, just a little bit of history. I started my first company at a very young age. And at that time, probably really began learning about innovation and the idea of digital transformation. At that time, it was working with hardware, so building computers and the early days of websites and seeing the power that these things held. And years later, it would lead me to create the next set of companies, which was one of the first digital agencies in the Midwest in the state of Michigan. And that really helped establish my understanding of what digital transformation would come to mean. That term has been used very aggressively, I would say, over the past 3 or 4 years, whereas before it was just the next technology, the next thing you had to add into your organization. And during that time, I worked with a lot of established businesses that had been around for 20, 30, 50, 100 plus years and helping them come online for the first time. Then moving into what I did recently, and that was walking organizations through what the power of new technologies would start to mean, not just today, but in the near future. So things like the Internet of Things, this new connected world that we are moving into, a more globalized economy and virtual economy as well. So I spent a lot of time, organizations from the Fortune 10 all the way through beyond the Global 2000 and all the way from the earliest of early pre-beginning startups through those that were headed on to their future IPOs. And I think through all of this, I'm happy to dive into some great examples, but I think through all of this, a few common traits came about. One, everyone wants to innovate. Everyone wants to be on the forefront of innovation. It's a great thing to say. It's a great thing to think about, and it's a great idea all around. Everyone wants to be in a digital form of some sort. However, after talking about it, so coming from the boardroom into the organization and actually deploying this, it's a lot harder than it sounds. And one of the biggest things is generally in almost every size of an organization, whether you're a late stage startup, in my case, in the world, or you're a large corporation, things take time. And biggest of all is mindset. All right. Again, everyone wants to be innovative. Everyone wants to go through a digital transformation. But again, the commonality that I saw was mindset. You have to have the right mindset and the flexibility to actually make these things happen. Just talking about, implementing new technologies or new ways of doing business isn't going to get you anywhere if you don't have the mindset to let it happen. And that's not just a mindset for the executives that may be deploying this, but to the teams that are working on it, to the whole organization that takes a shift. I remember working with one corporation where they saw the power of connected devices and saw it so much from our discussions that top level management came out and said, "Hey, this is our future. We live or die without this. So we're all on board. And if you're not, let's talk about it. But we're all on board. And that completely changed the direction of the organization, whereas one of their competitors did not do that and suffered the consequences. So first and foremost, mindset. Second is timing. Sometimes a lot of organizations jump ahead and just go forth and try to implement. Doesn't work. They get frustrated and they move on. And they end up regretting that because they've missed the boat, as in many cases, again, going through adding new technologies, adding innovation, going through that digital transformation process takes time. And so both from the market perspective, your technology you're trying may not yet be ready. And you have to be in it for the long haul. For your organization, again, things take time. You may not see results right away, but you will over time. Think about back to the days of the early internet and even e-commerce. Customers weren't jumping to buy things online in the ways that we are now today. But here we are, fast forward, 10, 15 years later, and some of us, that's all we do, right? We never enter a physical store anymore. So the point is things take time, both implementing and also getting feedback as well. And the last I'll add as well is learning. It's a learning process. You don't implement, you don't digitally transform your organization overnight, expect everything to work, and then also expect it to be perfect. You should be constantly learning of how to improve, how to grow, how to change, working with what is changing in the market, what new technologies may be out there, and that if they can fit. Summing all that up, also make sure whatever you may be transforming into is a right fit for your organization. I've had too many conversations of organizations wanting to implement a technology that frankly just did not fit their use case, did not fit their industry. And that can be hurtful to everybody at the end. And so really understand if what you're trying to do is a fit for your business, either today or in the near future. And one other lesson I think that kind of comes to mind with all that is at some point, you will have to innovate. At some point, you will have to transform your business. And what you want to do is get ahead of that curve, which is why I say things like mindset, timing, learning, and adjusting. Because if you don't, you'll get caught into a situation that's do or die. And that's kind of a situation we're in currently here in 2020, where a lot of organizations have reached a point of do or die. Back in the days where I was looking at the Internet of Things more aggressively, that was a big conversation we had with companies where, either you're going to get on this ship of, hey, the world is going to be connected. People are going to have more data. They're going to learn. They're going to understand. They're going to shift consumer behaviors, how they buy things, how they look at things, how they interact with things. You've got to get into this. If you don't, you're going to be left behind. And again, coming back here in 2020, we saw this dramatic surge of digital transformation in a very short amount of time, which I'll get to later. And that's put a lot of companies in this, do we innovate or do we not? Or have we already missed the opportunity and we're too late?
When it comes to innovation, it's not about jumping on the bandwagon. So you've got to find why you're doing it.
Absolutely. You've got to find why you're doing it. And again, if it's a fit, every industry has every company has a product that fits a use case and also solves a problem or a service as well. And sometimes many. And the same technology may not go all the way across all of them. Some may be quicker to implement and see results. Others may not. Good example. So Google Analytics, let's use that. Implementing analytics in websites back in the very early day was huge. It's very rewarding. You put this little bit of code onto your website. You're already coding, and you hit publish. And next thing you know, you can start to see people coming to your website. It changed the world in that respect. Right now, I can understand that people are actually coming to my website? How many, when, and in some cases from where? That's powerful. That's very instantaneous, results driven. But then you look at something like artificial intelligence or blockchain or many other technologies that we can speak about. And those things do not have an instantaneous result. But on the longer term, over 3, 5, 10 plus years, those do. Those fundamentally change your way of business and give you back so much more. But again, it's a longer time frame versus a shorter time.
Interesting. You have a real passion for innovation.
Some days. I think that's the excitement, but also the frustration with innovation is it is very exciting. It's exciting to talk about it. It's exciting to learn about. It's exciting to see, what the trends are, what's happening, what's changing in the world. But sometimes it can be frustrating. There's so much. So where do you start? Do you have the opportunity to make the investment into it? Again, as I mentioned, some things are a little early. And so are you really ready to be on that long tail journey to see it through? And, a good example again is blockchain. So blockchain technology, for instance, for many organizations is now the top thing. It's something they have to think about, they have to consider, they have to figure out, or they're already implementing. While that sounds great as a headline, the reality is we're still in the very early innings of that technology and how it can be or how it will be deployed. And so some of the organizations that have implemented this have actually been working on it for 3+ years. That's a long journey. And with that, the technology has rapidly changed and is constantly changing. So they're having to adapt. They're having to learn, which can be frustrating. But again, the end result can be very, very positive.
And what do you think it takes to, innovate? I think organizations can keep up with the pace.
So in terms of keeping up with the pace, look, I think at the end of the day, you're as an organization, you're going to have the hardest time keeping up with the pace in general because there's too much in too many different areas. So focus is probably one of my biggest pieces of advice. Focus on what it is you're looking to do. So when it comes to innovation and your product or your company, your organization, what is it that you're looking to improve upon? And then within that, start to focus on the technology or technologies that may be related to the things that you want to do or to your industry. So focus. And then 2, look to the bigger part of your industry. Figure out what other people are doing. Figure out what others are doing within your industry and your use cases. There's plenty of examples. And I think that's one thing that we lacked in the past and we're starting to see more of today is while it's a race, there's a lot of collaboration to be had. And there's a lot of opportunity in the world that people, while being competitive, can still learn from each other. So focus and then also educate yourself. And educate yourself on your industry and on your market and where your use case, both the customers and then yourself, so the business, where things are moving. May seem very obvious, but trust me, it's not. Instead, people, try to hire a head of innovation or an innovation officer, and that person's job is generally unrealistic because they're supposed to pay attention to everything in the world and everything that's happening. Take a breath. Focus on your industry. Focus on the innovations that matter to you and to your use case, and again, your customers as well. And I will add, in addition to that, being flexible. There's a lot of things that are going to come and go. You need to be flexible to the different types of technologies or innovations that you may try. And the key word is try. Trial and error. Try some things, learn from those, make adjustments, and go back and try others. And then move fast. So as organizations, most typically, again, when it comes to implementing new technologies, move a little slow. It's a little sluggish of a process. There's no denying that. And in this case, when it comes to innovating and trying to stay ahead of your competition, you want to move fast. You don't necessarily always have to be the first mover, but once you do get in, you want to continue to push forward on that. For that, I think what we've seen as a trend in the past, call it 3 to 5 years, and I think it's still to come in the future, is more organizations creating internal incubator programs or creating internal teams that can try these new innovations or technologies in a more trusted, kind of closed off, smaller environment, so that when something is ready, when something is starting to get traction, they can spin it in to the bigger organization, or in some cases, spin it out as an additional company, as something that can create new revenue and potentially get acquired, and not only create more jobs, but also give back to the original parent company. We've also seen more corporate venture programs, so CVCs, corporate venture capital, where corporations and organizations, and I also recommend this, where they're actually going out there to invest in these technologies, going out to invest in smaller companies that may be building this out, to not have to build it themselves, right? As an organization, you're very focused building what you do. And it's hard to integrate something very new. So, creating new internal incubator programs with small teams or early stage startups to take advantage of, leveraging your resources and your products to then investing yourself in these externally, or even joining accelerator programs. I saw a number of this in the past 10 years and even more so today, where as an organization, you can join accelerators and incubators around the world, either as a mentor or as a partner, and get the chance to see innovation from all corners of the world in its all different forms and all different stages. And from there, it kind of follows back up where you get a sense of what's happening on a macro scale. Then you can start to focus on a little bit more of a micro level of your area, right? Your expertise, your use cases. And from there, you can figure out what to invest in, what to partner with, and understand, again, learning what to build or what may or may not really be suited for you as well. And while this is all great, I really wish we saw more of this. I wish I saw more organizations presenting that type of flexibility to test out new solutions and work, not just with early stage startups, as that's again part of my world as I've done, but there's so much that can be had. And honestly, you as an organization have so much to give in return. It's a great two-way mutual street.
Yeah, so it's not like a book of rules. So you just have to experiment and learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, that's actually a great comment. The book of rules. Here's the book of rules. As you said, there is no book of rules. There is no process. Each company creates their own. The playbook I'm kind of presenting in my words is lessons learned I've had working with so many corporations on this, both myself being a part of them or educating them, or even consulting with them as well. And, at the end of the day, it comes back to mindset, it comes back to flexibility, and it comes back to learning. And there's so much, here we are in 2020, we're doing this interview. More and more people are working remotely and connecting over, video chats and not traveling, but at the same time are connecting more than ever. This is just a whole world of opportunity for you to learn, understand the mindset, and be flexible at trying different solutions as well. And the one thing I'll add at the base of all of this is events. And I'll bring that up because of 2020 right now. And that's the fact that, we're doing more and more events virtually, which means there's webinars, there's online events, there's this, there's that, there's everything happening. Guess what? You don't have to travel. Now you can learn from the best and the brightest around the world. And in some cases, actually engage with them afterwards which is hard to do in an in-person event. And from there, you can actually make huge leaps forward in your innovation strategy, in your innovation, implementation or deployment as well. And, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had this year alone, sharing this information or having conversations with organizations of just, where do we start? And again, it goes back to what I've said, are you ready? Do you have the mindset? Are you willing to commit? Are you willing to invest in this? And if so, are you willing to go the distance? And are you willing to try things internally? Are you willing to try things externally? And also, again, start with the startups. Look to those that have sacrificed everything, given up everything to go build their dream and passion. Guarantee they're working in similar areas you are, and there's so much to learn from them as well.
According to you, what do you think are the changes in the tech industry, once all this is over and we come out of this crisis?
It's a great question that I have almost every day. I think coming out of this, so we'll call it in the coming year plus, in the next year, a lot is going to change, and some will stay the same, but a lot will change for the better. But let's take a step back. So in the last 10 weeks or so, at least here in the US, but we'll say in the last 6 months globally, we've seen a rapid acceleration towards digitization. An acceleration that some that I've discussed with, and I believe in as well, is equivalent to what normally happens in a decade. So in about 6 months, we saw decades worth of digitization. That's something we don't go back to, right? That pushes us forward in a very, what I think is a very exciting path as well. And with that, what we're going to come out of, and we're already seeing the emergence of, is this new world of a digital forward or digital first and a digital economy. And again, there's no going back to this. We've committed at this point, right? Going back on it is just, it's impossible. We've all started to see the power of technology in different ways and how it helps our world or helps our lives, whether that's on the workplace or that's in personal. So going forward, we are fully committed globally to a digital world and to a digital economy. And what's exciting about that is that changes the game from when it comes to data, the amount of data that we have, the amount that we can do with data to help, again, better improve our day-to-day or how we work, how we use our products, how our products work for us and services as well. And that's where things like artificial intelligence and machine learning and areas like blockchain really start to have their place in the world. We've also seen the rise of gaming and new forms of entertainment that, again, have been kind of tossed and teased out there, but now they're there, right? So during this 6 months, we've had a lot of things that had been tested now actually in full force as well. So I think coming out of it, coming back to your question, coming out of it, again, we're fully committed to the digital world and to a digital economy. And that's going to open up a whole new world in front of us that I think science fiction may have only painted a small picture of, in a good way, mind you. So the idea of a digital world includes, this future of work, how we work, how we interact, how we connect with one another. Doesn't mean remote work will be the stand-all be-all forever. Instead, I think it's going to open up this new flexible opportunity for many people. Again, not for everyone, but for many. And the idea of a digital economy, and if it's some cases the virtual economy, is going to create these micro economies where digital goods, digital services, again, that digitization will be offered and allow people to not just be present in the physical, but also be present in the digital world. And a great example to that is digital assets are virtual goods. There's an entire world growing right now around virtual worlds where people are selling real estate in these virtual worlds and making $25,000 to $200,000 a year selling, but not just selling, actually renting out property, building buildings on these virtual worlds, selling them like virtual landlords, doing virtual farming, selling art, and many other examples that they're doing in their digital life while in their physical life they're here working as well. So I think what comes out of this is a lot that has changed. We're going to see new ways of creating income for us. If anything, you're going to see people with more income streams as they start to sprout out and try out these new things.
That's so true. This has really pushed us to adapt to change faster than we would otherwise. Yeah,
and we're technically slow to adopt, right? If you reference the Crossing of the Chasm book, it spells it out very clearly, and a lot of us are not the early adopters. I consider myself one, sometimes for better or for worse, but most are not. And again, in these past 6 months, we've all had to become quick adopters, not necessarily early, but quick adopters, to your point. And had to make changes in many ways, right? How we buy goods. How do we get our food? So our most essential. How do we still connect with the restaurants and local businesses? But how do we get it without being physically there, right? So what is exciting about those types of things is now you have new infrastructure that has been built that will not go away for things like logistics, supply chain, and in some cases, manufacturing. Right? Areas were once very established now have very much digitized or very much expanded in areas that they may not have. When it comes to events, and we mentioned earlier, this is how we are connecting right now. And in some cases, this may be how we connect in a lot of ways going forward. As I mentioned, for organizations, you can get in touch with almost anybody in the world at almost any level today than you ever could. And that's mostly because of the situation we live. But going forward, that actually could be more regular than not, right? Where you can have access to the top experts to ask the one question, to figure out the one answer or the one big, strategy that you need for your organization. So while we had quickly adapted, I think the thing to leave with on this question is, continue to quickly adopt, continue it, continue to ask and push yourself forward as an organization, because it's not going to slow down. If anything, it's going to speed up, and you want to stay in that speed and keep yourself on the forefront.
So we got to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. Generally, it's tough, but generally.
So speaking about employee experience, how much do you think AI can help in improving the employee experience for an organization?
Yeah, this is a wonderful question. So I think the future of work and the future employee is going to look very different in the coming years. And artificial intelligence is only going to play a part of that bigger picture. And when I talk about the future of, we'll say, the workplace, I don't necessarily mean, again, we're all going to be working remotely from our living rooms every day, but instead, there is going to be more flexibility. There will be more tools implemented to increase productivity and connection. The way that we have done work for the past decade is not necessarily how we're going to work together, which is another key word, in the coming 10 years, right? There's going to be more collaboration, not just internally within an organization, but throughout other organizations and throughout many industries as well. Because again, the tools that were being brought to us are not just increasing productivity, they're also helping us to increase our ability to innovate as well. And so going to artificial intelligence, right now it's going to help a lot. And probably, and I will say more so in the near future. Today, as it stands, we still need very much a human element in alignment with artificial intelligence. And the reason why is, artificial intelligence, while great, is also built on data, right? So it takes data, trains with that data, and then acts on that data in its simplest form. So if we're feeding it no data, it doesn't do anything. If we're feeding it data, and so take the last 6 months, you feed it the last 6 months of data, that's great. That's a ton of data for it to process and then react upon. The issue is that data is generally skewed, right? Or it's untrusted. We haven't yet, and we haven't yet really gotten to a level where there is trusted data. And that's where blockchain and other technologies are starting to come into play, is providing a trusted and transparent source of data. And the data coming in needs to not be skewed. So it needs to be all inclusive, which is difficult to get, right? So again, coming back to 2020, we have, the majority of us working online, but we're not all online in the world. So when it comes to learning our habits and thinking about what has or hasn't changed, there's a whole subset of people in this world, in this country, in this state, in this city, that were not online during this time, right? They still were doing things physically, which means that's a skewed data set. When it comes to the workplace, think about HR. So you're taking in resumes. That's great. Again, very skewed data. How do you know I am who my paper says I am, right? My CV. Where is that source of truth? Where is that knowledge that when I say that I've spoken in this interview that I have, in fact, spoken in this interview? Where's the relation to that? And so that's why that human element is still very important to look at, whether it's a CV or other parts of the business, to make sure that things are getting done correctly and not, certain people or certain parts of the organization are not being left out to skewed data as well. And it's an unfortunate thing, but for as long as AI has been around, right now we've got more and more data than we've ever had, and that will continue to increase. So over time, that will get better. Data will get more trusted. We'll implement things, like proof of talent from the blockchain world, where we can prove not just who we are. So that comes from the idea of identity, but also we've done what we say we've done. Right. So this interview is not just something I've said on my resume, but instead it's out there, right? It's linked, it's tied together. And there may not be a need for a human element in the future, but when you look at the bigger picture of an organization, so not so focused on us as individuals, there's a lot it can do. Again, bringing in that data, creating new models, so leveraging the ability to learn from that. So what's called machine learning, learn from that data set to train on how to automate processes. I think that's going to change things. It's going to be tough for some parts of the organization, right? Because some things that we do as individuals may get automated very quickly, but that's actually a very big opportunity for those who once did it to adapt to new skills, to do something even bigger and better as well. And so we see artificial intelligence applied in a lot of places around, again, analytics, supply chain, logistics, manufacturing, and many other areas as well. But I think there's great opportunities around healthcare, mobility, so future of transportation, retail as well, for artificial intelligence to step in and, again, go into automating. So automation, leveraging artificial intelligence, I think, will have an incredible impact, not just for the organization as a whole, but for us as individuals, whether it's from accounting to payroll to HR to expense reports, to the way that we're able to get things done on a day-to-day basis. At Topio, one of the things that I do a lot of is a lot of research, and constantly I'm looking at companies within an industry. While great, that's exciting, but there's definitely an AI component that can be had to that, right? Where I'm now being told the best sector in an industry. I'm now being told the best performing companies based on XYZ data. There's so much that can be had when you leverage data and add intelligence on top of it. But again, that data has to be full, or else there has to be a human element to make it effective. If not, you're doing a disservice. And again, the HR example is just a great example where, you get 500 resumes, you pick one. What happened to the other 499? There's probably 200 of them that were actually really good candidates, but because the AI reacts with a skewed data set, you miss them. The other thing with the human element is that AI is emotionless right now. So there is no emotional spin. There is no direct logic of right and wrong. And so things can, again, while be automated, they can fall apart very quickly. So again, still in the early days, even though we've had this technology in some cases for 30 plus years, and it's still here to change the world for the better in the future.
So we aren't at the either or situation yet. We still need both.
Yeah, we still need both. And look, some people may refute me, but from the conversations I've had day in and day out, it's no question we need both. We need both to be there. We need both to be able to help train that data, right? Train those models, train the intelligence. And at some point we will get to that inflection where we can start to move on and do other things within an organization, and the AI just continues. There are some rudimentary tasks that AI can help greatly for right now without necessarily needing a human element. But at the end of the day, if you want to make sure it's done and done right, you've got to have a team or at least a few individuals who are there monitoring it.
So, Kyle, coming to the last question of our interview, would you like to share some sound bites with our audience?
Many, but we're coming to the end, so I'll pick a few. I think a few things to leave everybody with is that, at the end of the day, whether you believe it or not, everything is global. Everything. The products and services that we build and sell, our customers, our businesses, everything is global, and it's just going to continue to grow. Be ready, and if you're not, get ready. Never stop learning. Never. We talked about joining accelerator programs. We talked about these other ways to get education and to invest and to try and to learn new things. But I can't say it better than never stop learning and continue to push the bounds of your organization. Push yourselves to be on the forefront of innovation when and where it makes sense. Right? Don't just try every technology because it's the latest thing being talked about or the biggest headline. Make sure it works for you, for your organization, and for your products and services. And at the end of the day, it's actually something that will help, and your customers will value that it has been included and helps their lives as well. There's a lot of opportunity, and there is going to be nothing but more. As we come into the next couple years, get ready to take advantage of it. And as I said before, there's no going back. We are committed fully to a digital world and to a digital economy ahead. And that's nothing but endless opportunities for you and for your organization. And very lastly, I want to leave you with be global, think vertical, and act local. Be global in the sense that you're everywhere. As I said, your customers are everywhere. Your organization should be everywhere. And so in some cases will your team. Think vertically. Focus very heavily on being successful in your industry. Once you have accomplished that, then start to expand to other industries or other verticals. And third, act local. Be present locally where your organization or where your team is developed. Help give back to the community. Help give back to those who have helped you survive and thrive so well. So be global, think vertical, act local.
That was some really good advice and really nice tips shared, guys. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insights and your time with us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm super excited. It was a great opportunity, and thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.